Russia tomorrow.
Daniel, во-первых, поздравляю вас с номинацией. Это действительно...
Daniel, first of all, congratulations on your nomination. It's really great news. I'm sure it means a lot to you and the whole team that took part in the project. I firstly wanted to ask how it felt to be on the shortlist for the most prestigious award in film.
Какие эмоции вы испытали?
I felt extraordinary relief and intense gratitude. Any recognition for the film hopefully will encourage more people to learn about Navalny, will encourage more people to see the film and understand who this guy is and exactly what he's up against. And for me, that's the most meaningful prize, is the recognition that comes with this nomination and how that will hopefully translate to more people seeing and engaging with the movie.
Why do you think your film was nominated and made it to shortlist? What's the main reason?
Well, I think audiences are really taken with not just the extraordinary story that's in the movie and these amazing characters, and Alexei Navalny and Christo Grozev and Yulia and Maria Pevchik, but also I think that a lot of people are very impressed with the craft of the film. A lot of people have written about the film like it's a thriller, like it plays like a Jason Bourne movie or a James Bond film. And I think that's part of the reason for the film's success. It's a very, very watchable, engaging film.
Дэниел, я знаю, что вы показывали свой фильм в самых разных странах мира, в Соединенных Штатах.
Daniel, I know you screened your film in many countries worldwide, from the US to all over the world. I've read reactions and reviews from a few Russian viewers who know everything about what's going on in the country, who said that they didn't necessarily learn anything new. But others will reply and say that the film was primarily made with a Western audience in mind, for people who aren't as well acquainted with the political goings-on within Russia. Would you agree with that? Is the intended audience mostly a Western one?
Yes and no. I think that although a Russian who is a fan of Navalny, who knows the story, might still be moved to see the film. I think the difference between this film and other pieces of media is the emotional, experiential aspect of watching it. You can still know the story and still feel very deeply for this man and his family when you're watching it. But largely speaking, yes, of course, this film was made for a Western audience. I'm a Western filmmaker. Navalny's speaking to me in English. And I think from Navalny's point of view, it has really become a tool to engage with the West, to set up events all across the West, and to keep his name in not just the Russian consciousness, but in the global consciousness. And I think the film really helps with that.
But if we're talking about Western viewers, what was their reaction? You'd observe people leaving the cinema after the screening. What would they be saying?
Well, I think a lot of people are very impressed with this man's superhuman courage. I think a lot of people are able to put aside politics and focus on the human being and just understand that whether or not you agree with every one of this man's policies or what he stands for, his treatment is completely inhumane, and he deserves to be free, and he deserves to be with his wife and children. And I think that belief in his courage has been a guiding consensus amongst people who watch it.
Дэниел, скажите, а вы поддерживаете отношения с Алексеем Навальным?
Daniel, are you still in touch with Alexei Navalny? Do you communicate with each other? I recently saw his post joking about him being nominated for an Oscar. Do you know what his reaction to that was?
I don't have any communication with him personally. The only communication I have is what we all have, his social media posts through his lawyers. But obviously, it's hopefully something that provides him with some joy. You know, I made this film, we made this film, and it went on to receive these extraordinary accolades. And I hope that reminds Alexei that the world is with him, that good people around the world have not forgotten about him, that as he languishes in solitary confinement, his fight goes on. And the film is just one tool in this fight for his freedom. And, you know, for me, that means a great deal.
Do you know if any politicians have your sin about Navalny? Any influential people or decision makers?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know of a great deal of influential people all over the world who have seen the film and responded very positively to it. And I think that's precisely the difference between, let's say, a film and a YouTube video. You watch this film and you feel it. You feel connected to it. You feel for this man and his family. And that, to me, is just, it is so important. And we've had very positive response from people. A lot of our friends at the European Commission have seen the film. A lot of our friends at the British Parliament have seen the film. A lot of very influential U.S. politicians and former politicians have seen the film. Individuals like that.
Мы знаем, что среди 5 номинантов
We know that among the 5 nominated films, there's a film about Navalny and there's a film about the war in Ukraine.
И в этом смысле, как бы это правильно сформулировать?
In this sense, do you maybe have some doubts about the winning odds of a film about Navalny, considering that Russia is still conducting a horrific war in Ukraine? Is it possible that the members of the American Academy may regard the film about Ukraine as having a greater political significance than a film about a Russian opposition leader? Is this something you might have thought about?
Задумывались ли вы об этом?
Well, it's very important, Ksenia, that you know what film you're talking about. The film is called A House Made of Splinters, and it is a stunning film. I was able to watch it a year ago when it premiered at Sundance, and it has stuck with me ever since. And I'm grateful that the House Made of Splinters is one of the final films chosen to be nominated by the Academy Awards because it is so beautiful and it is so timely. And we exist within a paradigm of 5 very beautiful films. I think this year's lineup is very strong. And no matter who wins the prize at the end of the day, I can rest assured that we are included in an extraordinary lineup of films. And I would encourage every single one of your viewers to seek out A House Made of Splinters, see where they can find it, where they can watch it, where they can stream it, because it is a beautiful and poignant portrait of children growing up in a very troubled time in a troubled region. And it deserves the attention of everyone. And I'm just glad that the Academy was able to honor it in that way.
Дэниел, мы с вами говорили в предыдущий раз около года назад, тогда я находилась в Москве.
Daniel, when we last spoke, it was around a year ago, I was still in Moscow and we discussed your new at-the-time film about Russia's most prominent opposition leader. After the interview, you asked me why we were still in Russia, how was TV Rain still able to function, and why we were not leaving. At that point, I thought we still had time, but as it turned out, I'm speaking to you from Latvia, and Russia is fighting a destructive war in Ukraine.
Хотела спросить у вас по итогам этого почти года катастрофы, кошмара.
I wanted to ask you, after almost a year of this nightmare, is there a sense that Russia has ceased to be an object of interest? That the world is just disillusioned with Russia and no one wants to talk about its internal problems, conflicts, civil rights issues, even Alexei Navalny? Is there any sense that the world is ready to just forget about Russia?
Ощущение, что о России готовы забыть в мире.
I think I understand the spirit of your question, and I think it's very easy for people around the world to paint Russians with one brush. It's very easy to see Russians writ large as aggressors, as the facilitators of this horrible, horrible war in Ukraine, as supporters of Putin. But of course, the reality is far more nuanced than that. There are thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of millions of what we call good Russians, people like you, people like your colleagues, people like Navalny and his colleagues, who have put themselves at great personal risk for what they believe in, for the truth, for the values that so many people in the West take for granted. And the reality is, if we want this war to end, if we want to heal the wounds of this egregious war, we are going to need to work with good Russians, people who have a positive impact or positive vision for the future of their country. And I think a nuanced portrait and a nuanced perspective is very important. I think that there's a tendency to simply write everyone off as Russian and therefore bad. And my personal opinion is that is quite dangerous. Although I can simultaneously understand the emotional reaction, which is motivated by this horrible moment in history, I will also say that at the end of the day, I don't think that will serve the common goals of people who want this war to end, who want this horrible dictator to be relegated to the dustbins of history, and who want a democratic and cooperative and free Russia. I think Navalny calls it the beautiful Russia of the future.
Yeah.
We need to have space for these people, and we need to support them because what they're doing is incredibly brave and dangerous. And I think that those sorts of principles are embodied in the Navalny documentary.
We operated in Russia for 12 years, and the government tried to get rid of us 3 times.
We had to leave, forced out of the country by new repressive laws after the first week of the war. Our freedom crushed by the authorities.
Мы временно приостанавливаем работу телеканала.
We survived, started working from Europe, and now we are watched by millions of people every day.
There's no other independent news channel in Russian. We have now decided to tell the truth about Russia in English as well.
So that you could get news about Russia, the war in Ukraine, and Russian society directly from the source.
We want to tell you firsthand what is really happening in Russia. Subscribe to TV Rain Newsroom on YouTube and let's take a look at our future together.